Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heintz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davidson. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, Steeler Nation? Welcome back to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. And today we're on my channel, the State of the Steelers, where, well, the State of the Steelers is looking up in the future, at least that is. I have with me, as always, Mark Davidson and Nathan Heintz. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Are you sure? Just fantastic. I think you were a little bit more lively before we got on air.
Hey, man, my favorite player got traded away. Oh, no, what am I going to do? That sucks. That's horrible. He's the best. He's a future Hall of Famer, Mapletron. He hasn't got a big ego at all. Come on, man. Yeah. I'm so happy he's gone. I've never he had a good season at the start, sure. You know, the 11 touchdowns and whatnot. We're pretty good with Big Ben, right? But right. Other than that, I think he's this showcase time and time again how much of an ego he has. He doesn't. To me, he's not a Pittsburgh Steelers fit. Not a big fan of him overall. I'm glad he's gone. And there are guys to replace him, in my opinion. We'll talk about that too. Exactly. It's my Christmas. I just don't like the guy. And I just don't like how he prioritizes TikTok more than he does playing the game. He's not physical. And we all saw it in that catch this year that a 5'6" corner beat him. You got to go up and get it, man. So I'm happy. And we didn't really lose anything. We got a second rounder for a second rounder. It's great.
For sure.
Great pick.
For sure. Well, I mean, after the way he's played, I don't know if he would be considered still a second rounder, but hey, that's what we got for him. So your value is what somebody's willing to pay. Nathan, how are you doing? How was your day today?
Not bad. Just kind of recovery day from last night. If obviously I'm not in my my podcast room or behind the mic here, but I'm still out of town, so doing it this way. But feeling pretty good. Excited to talk about some of these things going on, and excited to hear Mark pop off. But I don't think anything will top before we went live.
Yeah. I can't swear, so I don't want to swear again. But
you know what I saw on the Twitterverse earlier today? Somebody put a headstone on the field there in Acrisure Stadium that said the TikTok era is out, is dead. Rest in peace to the TikTok era.
2020 to 2022.
You know, I was thinking out loud earlier today and talking with a buddy of mine about this trade. And it got me thinking, there was some reports earlier this season that, not reports, it was Arthur Mollett who was yelling out in the locker room about players, laughing and enjoying themselves during a blowout loss. And then you hear the comments from Kenny Pickett where they're not studying enough. And Chase Claypool gets dealt. Do you think there's a coincidence there or a correlation? We'll start off with you, Mark.
Oh, definitely. I really don't think, and I've said it everywhere I am. I even say it outside by myself in the park. Like I'm telling you, he just doesn't. To me, is not a real receiver, and you can see that his route running ability is poor. He's going to catch the football is poor. The things that he does well is when he's in tight end or in the slot, and he gets the football. And you brought up a few weeks ago, Daniel, when he gets a short football, and then he's able to run forward. Other than that, he doesn't really do anything well. So I think we got away with one here. And I think he's more about himself. And Steeler Lee says, he's more about the media clout than he is the actual championships. And 100%, we are in that new era now. Look, we're on YouTube, right? We were trying to be fun and crazy to get viewership, so we go crazy. But we're having an opinion. He has to go out there and play football. Go and play football. And he doesn't do that. And I'm so happy. And I'm happy that the Steelers realize that because there are players behind him. You still have Steven Sims. He can do the exact same thing that Claypool does on those reverses. If Canada's still going to do those reverses, Steven Sims does it better because he's a returner and he's quicker. He's much more faster, right? And Miles Boykin came into some reps last week too. They didn't use him that much, but he can play some reps too. Boykin doesn't just have to play special teams as a gunner. You can use him in certain circumstances too. And I reckon as well what's going to happen is they're going to use Muth, they're going to use Hayward a lot more too as pass catchers and get the players more involved that way. Just because you lose Claypool doesn't mean you're going to lose a deep threat. He wasn't really a deep threat anyway. Let's be honest. Right. Like he wasn't going to be – I actually got this question. Was he going to be here next year or the year after? No.
Maybe next year contract.
The year after his contract, right? I don't think he
wasn't getting an extension.
So what's the problem? There's no problem. You get a second round for him, and for the Steeler fans who say we're going to tank, you should be loving this because you get a second rounder.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
And an emphasis on the second round pick, as for all those who have kind of been paying attention to the details coming out of it. There was a false report that it was the Ravens' second round pick that the Bears got for Okon Smith, but it's really the Bears' original second round pick, which is a very high second round pick. And I think really from what's been said, the Packers had a second round pick on the table too, but the Steelers went with the higher value there.
Yeah, I would definitely go with
the
trading for the same round.
They're a freaking joke.
Right, but you would think that the Packers are eventually going to get something together and push a little bit more of a probably have a higher or a pick later on in the draft as opposed to the Chicago Bears, who have traded majority of their defense, clearly going into a win later mode in a rebuild year. And I want to say thanks to everybody in the live chat. We'll be going through comments and going through questions at the end. If you want a comment or question answered sooner, hit us up with a super chat and we'll stop and we'll answer your question and comment. And so the news was
sorry, Daniel, just clarifying. Yeah, Mr. Hammers, that's what I said. It's a top 40 pick. It's a very high second round pick. It was reported that it was falsely reported it was the Ravens one, and it wasn't. So that's definitely a great job by the Steelers front office.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
Claypool's not even close to being a second round pick value type guy. Like I couldn't believe my eyes. I know that we've all seen like kind of the rumors the last couple of weeks that they want to get a second round pick for him. And I think really a lot of people didn't think that was going to happen. But in terms of these teams, when it was coming down the wire that really needed a wide receiver, and they were able to pull that out. So, I mean, that's an incredible thing. And the people on Twitter that don't like the trade, sure, okay, like there's nothing wrong having a liking toward Claypool. I liked him as when they took him and things like that too. But, I mean, he's the amount of value that you're getting for a guy that's not even close to that type of value, dude, it's a no-brainer. He's not here long term. Honestly, there's not going to be much difference offensively with or without him with what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
With the status quo.
You got him for a second anyway. What's the problem? You got him for a second, and he's a lazy receiver, and he's not a top tier top 20, top 25. No. He's not even up there. He's not up there at all, man. He definitely he drops more footballs than he does catch them. He falls down consistently. I don't care if his feet get tangled. He has no body position in the air. Called himself Mabeltron, but he plays like like jelly. He's terrible, dude. I'm so glad he's gone. And there must be a reason why the Steelers went, you know what, we've had enough of you because you don't fit the system.
Well, there was rumors throughout the offseason, and apparently that are have been come out since the trade that the Steelers were trying to, and we're picking up the phone call for Mapletron early in the offseason and throughout the year. So, the Steelers identified that there was a possible issue or a possible that they wanted to go a different route than Chase Claypool, and I think that was something that was done early on. I mean, you look at the when the Pittsburgh Steelers signed Miles Boykin, and then they turned around and drafted George Pickens, I felt that those were receivers that were, kind of had similar skill set, or the Steelers wanted to do something similar with them, being that they were going to have tall, fast receivers that were physical. That's what all three of these receivers were, and I thought that perhaps they could move on from Claypool. And And I think this has been something that was a long time coming. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers organization were too impressed with the celebrations and the childish antics on the field. Think of the Minnesota game. And so this has been something, I think that the Steelers have been waiting, to deal and to get something back in return. Now, who do you think replaces him at the slot position? We'll start off with you, Nathan. Nathan, who do you think is going to be the main guy?
Sorry, guys. Before I get that, just apologies on my end. Just a little internet cut out there. Cut me out. Obviously, it's not ideal with doing it from my iPhone here. But I think really with what you got, I think they might just kind of have a mixture of everybody. I think you'll see Steven Sims involved a little bit. Miles Boykin probably get elevated a little bit more. Gunner, I don't really care to see him on the field. I don't really think that he offers too much as a wide receiver, but I think you'll probably see more Sims, more Boykin. Is there anybody else other than Olszewski I'm missing? Like, is there somebody from the practice squad that they could elevate?
It's Cody White, but I don't think he's going to come up.
Yeah. I think they're going to work with what they have first.
Yeah,
and there was, and as far as and the folks who are like, man, Calvin Austin shouldn't,
right?
They should have, activated him, this, that, or the third. He had surgery, put it on
foot surgery.
Yeah, he just had successful foot surgery. I think it was today. Put it on his Instagram, and so he was going to be down for the year. He re-aggravated that foot injury, and so it was nothing that the Steelers weren't going to do. I don't think they activate a player throughout that 21-day window without the intention of putting him back on the 53. I mean, they don't need to ever do that. You know what I'm saying? That's not a process to do. And so it is what it is. The Steelers had another trade today. They picked up from the Washington Commanders, Will Jackson III. What are your thoughts on this pickup there, Mark? We'll start off with you. What were your first impressions?
Are we done talking about Claypool now? Oh, no. Oh, that sucks.
Nightmares, Mark. Nightmares. The nightmares are over.
I kind of like it because I think as well the secondary is a bit in shambles.
Yeah.
On the paper in the back end, the Terrell Edmonds and the Minka, they look, it's like, oh my goodness, you can't stop that. But Akila Witherspoon, I thought from last year was going to have a good go this year, and he looks so lost. Mm-hmm. He looks lost on routes. He looks lost in hand position and fighting for the football. It's almost like he's allowing the bloody receiver to catch the ball. He looks very, lost out there. Levi Wallace has been an absolute pretty much a dud for us because he's been injured and hasn't done anything right. And that's not all his fault, but he hasn't been on the field, and availability is key there. I think that some standouts and some plays have been Sutton, and I think Mollett to a certain degree, but then other times you see them just fall to pieces.
Yeah.
So they need some stability there, and possibly bringing this guy in who's a veteran, who has played for the Bengals before. I think the Steelers did want him back before they got Artie Burns. Although I think he has some back issues or something like some injuries that he's getting through. But to me, they're giving away a 6rounder for a guy to come into the organization.
They're not even doing that. I think they're swapping places.
What else? Yeah, there you go. What else is like, you're not giving up too much. You're getting another player. See if he can fit the scheme. See if he can play maybe, I think from what I read somewhere, he's like more man-to-man. He plays more that kind of style. See if he can lock down one of their best receivers because they just can't do that. And this still is secondary. And actually the whole defense is allowing a lot of big plays, aren't they? The Bucs game was fantastic. I thought they took care of Tom Brady and they played everything in front of them. But then versus the Philly game, everything was behind them and letting people get was it AJ Brown got 4 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns on us? That was crazy, dude.
Oh, yeah,
he beat a kilo on the exact same play, same pass, same route. He played more of the inside and took it right to the outside, and he couldn't get there. There was no safety help. So I think having a guy come in, of course, it's not going to change everything where the Steelers are going to win, But that's it. The value is nothing. It's really nothing. It's like just bringing a guy over, saying, okay, let's give him a test out, and the next 9 games, if we are meant to lose, it's a good 9-game test to see if he's going to fit the scheme next year.
Yeah, it is, and they can opt out, like if he doesn't really catch on to anything, or they don't really think that he's gonna fit in what they want to do next year. So obviously you have to wait and see how he kind of settles in in the second half of the year. But they can opt out of his contract where he has a bonus, some type of it's not a signing bonus. It's some type of player bonus that he's due in March. So if they decide not to bring him back, obviously he won't get that. But they got to make that decision by sometime in March. So it's definitely like a low risk type thing. And who knows? Like who knows? Like if it was more him being in Washington and it just wasn't working, or if it's a mixture of both him not being good or Washington, or if it was just him, who knows? But we'll kind of see the second half how he fits in. But why not at this point, right? Why not? Who cares?
No, I agree. So Jennifer asks, why is everyone, said that Joe Hayden was too old but okay with this trade here? Well, one, I think William Jackson's like 3 years younger than Joe Hayden. I would definitely take a Joe Hayden at 30 right now versus Joe Hayden at, what is he, 33? And so go ahead.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. But you know what's funny?
What's that?
It's kind of like Joe Hayden never played for the Steelers. How much publicity is he doing for the Browns? Have you seen the countless jersey retirements, stuff like that, and all the tours he's doing for the Browns? Like the one day retirement has turned into like a 3-week long process to be like, I love the Browns. It feels like he never played for us at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think that it would still be that way if the Pittsburgh Steelers won a Super Bowl with Joe Hayden as a cornerback there?
Nah, probably not. I think it might be more to our side, really. And depends too, because obviously he didn't want to come back because of what's happening now with the quote unquote rebuild, retooling year, or whatever the year is. Maybe he didn't want to be a part of this defense, right? So there's, I just found it funny that I saw one, there was one day he's like, retiring as a Brown, and every second day, because I got him on Instagram somehow, some way, and he's always just doing something with the Browns. He's just like a Browns guy now, but he played for us for the last 5 years. I loved him.
Yeah.
I loved Joe Hayden playing. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he pumped everyone up. I thought he was a good morale guy. But if we can get someone like that can shut down one of the receivers and take away one of their best weapons, then we can start to play, bring some other guys in and do what the Steelers wanted to do, was play that 3 safety look with Kazi as well. Don't forget about that. Kazi was playing. Kazi injured his wrist, right? He was playing fantastic in preseason. I really thought they had a plan to play him in this defense, and then everything started to fall apart, and they had to rely on Wallace and those kind of guys. Like that was really as big of a TJ Watt kind of injury. Like him being out for 6 games really hurt the Steelers, because I thought they played him in a certain way, certain scheme which allowed Terrell Edmonds to do what he wanted to do. And he's a real fast guy too, and he's a guy that he reminds me of like a Jalen Warren or a Steven Sims. He's just very physical and wants to compete out there. He wants to play football for the Steelers. So there are guys like that I think that can excel in this team. And yeah, if you give 2 weeks to a new bloke coming in who's a veteran, I'm not saying playoffs, but I'm saying there could be some chance we can win games. And I just want to see one win.
I agree that this does increase the chance and the likelihood of the Pittsburgh Steelers winning some games. Guys, I want to remind everybody and tell everyone that unfortunately we gave away the Steelers tickets. However, the person who won them didn't claim them. They didn't come forward. So they had 24 hours to claim the tickets. They didn't. So we're going to be giving those tickets away again on the live chat this time. We're going to be doing it live. We're not going to have a video out first or anything like that. You're going to have to be a subscriber. So I recommend subscribing and ringing that notification bell. But post game of the Cincinnati Bengals game, we'll be giving away those tickets to a member subscriber in the live chat that game. So unfortunately, Mr. Blaine didn't come forward, didn't email us in. I tried getting in contact with him through the comment section, and his loss is y'all's gain. There was only like 40 something people that were in the contest. So you have another opportunity this
maybe he just didn't want to see
weeks.
this crap show.
Was he the bloke that said he's unsubscribing to every single Steelers channel on YouTube until Mike Tomlin gets fired? Was that the guy?
It could have been.
That's Claypool, Mark. That's Claypool, man.
Oh man, Claypool probably. Yeah, this one right here, unsubscribed from all Steelers channels.
Can we just break this down for a little minute? Like, that is crazy to me. You're going to unsubscribe to all the good channels, like Steel Twins, in hindsight, my channel, Steel Oz, Pittsburgh, Owen. Who else is out there? Here we go show. BTSC still underground. All I'm not gonna watch anything. All right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
See ya.
Yeah, that one was insane. That was insane. But I encourage you to hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, because you will have to be present on this live. These tickets will be given away, not this upcoming Sunday, 3 weeks from now. No, you know what? I'm sorry. It's the post game after the Saints game, not the Bengals. I'm sorry. It's the Saints game that will be giving them away. So not this weekend, but after the Saints game. So hopefully that's that'll be a victory. It kind of sucked to give away those tickets after a blowout loss. You know what I'm saying? Didn't feel right. You want to get excited. You want to give them away. Right. You want to get excited with the person that's in the live chat, and you just got your rears handed to you on a platter, and you're like, hey, time to give away some tickets. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel right. So hopefully the Steelers can bounce back and win this game. But before we can look forward to the Saints and what the Steelers are going to do, let's take a quick look back at the Philadelphia Eagles game. What were y'all's impressions? I know we talked about Akila Weatherspoon. What are y'all's impressions of the offense throughout this game? We'll start off with you, Nathan.
I knew this was going to be a slaughter fest. I really did. I didn't have any confidence about this offense going in this game. You're facing a top defense. You're facing an undefeated team. And what we've seen from this offense all year long, there should not have been any expectations that there was going to be anything to really wrap your mind around or to break down or to be excited about. I mean, dude, it's just sad. It is. It's sad. It's sad that the Eagles players were dressing up for Halloween on the sidelines while the game was going on. Like,
Yeah.
That's so disrespectful, man.
It
so
really
disrespectful.
is. It really is, and you know what? I don't feel bad for them about it. Like, that's on them. That's their fault for sitting with the status quo and just taking up the ass. That's pretty much like what they did. So
Comment of the
there
day
wasn't
right
one
there.
positive in this offense. Now, I will say the most disgusting. Well, Mark?
There's a positive. Jalen Warren, man. He's a positive.
Well, okay, yeah, Jalen Warren. I mean, you can say that. But not really anything to pick from that game. That was another embarrassing loss on the season, another dreadful, disgusting game on display this year from this team. And it's not even the fact they lost, man. It's the fact that nothing's changing, dude. It's the fact nobody's thriving. There's no steps to getting better from week to week to week. And that's what you want to see, obviously. But we know this team just isn't good. We know there's so many problems with this team. The one thing I will say about the offense, the most disgusting play I've seen this year was the play when Najee Harris was in the wide open field. Not a single soul around him. He can easily run forward for a first down. And the guy is dancing around and juking ghosts. What is he doing? That was the ugliest play by a running back I have seen in so long.
I actually felt sick. I felt sick watching that play. I was like, what are you doing? You're a massive guy. You're like about 240 pounds or whatever that is in kilos. You're a massive dude. You're like 140 kilos, 100, probably 20 kilos, right? You're a big guy.
Like,
what are you doing? Like, aren't you not meant to talk when you catch the football, catch it in stride, and then like break off your right foot?
Yeah.
Go forward.
Yeah, and I don't get it,
was awful.
Because him in Alabama and him and now, it's two different players. Like, his play style, like, I don't know if it's like a coaching thing that the Steelers are doing with him as to why he's trying to play a certain way than really what he thrived with in terms of not offensive systems, not schemes. Him just as a player, him how he played ball for a running back. Like, look at him in college. Look at what he's doing now. It's like two differences, man. Like, he would be like a north to south type guy. He bulldoze you over. Now he's dancing around. He's juking people that aren't there. He's hesitating on runs. And sure, we know Najee Harris has never been like this a speed guy or this guy with this just explosiveness or anything. But there's a reason why at Alabama he was a coveted player. There's a reason why he was really what all of us fans were like, okay, like, yeah, let's see. Like, we're excited about this, and we're seeing it now, and it's, dude, like, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what it is, or if it's some type of coaching philosophy that they're trying to teach him to do. Like, what are we seeing?
Oh, Daniel, can you put that comment back up? How much of those tickets? I'm gonna have to buy Brian about fucking 35 beers, I think. You know,
it depends if you're buying them at the game. That might only be like 6.
6
So-
beers.
Yeah.
You know what? I agree, and I want to. Daniel, you told me this. That you also said to me in a Vox or somewhere. I can't. We do that much stuff online. I can't remember where I'm saying it. I really don't remember. I want to remember this conversation. But you told me, you said, what happened the next play? Najee Harris tried to hurdle a guy. What are you doing? Head down, bro.
I was so angry when he did that juke. I was like, run through the guy. That's just run through him. You outweigh the dude by almost twice. Just run through him. And then the next play, I see him try to jump over a guy instead of run through him again. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man? You're not a freaking ballerina out there. You're a football player. You're freaking 240 plus pounds. You're 6'2". You look like a superhero. Why are you trying to act like a ballerina out there? It's beyond me. It's
what
insane.
are they taught to do? What are you taught to do? You guys probably play American football because you live in America. What are you taught to do? Like, you meant to shut, pad level down and lower and drive and run with your legs. What your biggest asset is you, right? And you're in the air. Like, what are you doing? And like, I'm a big Najee guy. I like him. I think he can still turn it around. I really do.
I agree.
Can turn it around.
I agree.
But that play when he's back there juking, he didn't move. He didn't move.
No.
Like, he moved like half a yard, bro.
How
And
do
he
you
had
not gain a first down from that?
You know what? I saw that move that he did before. It was, remember when he was in Mexico playing with the little kids soccer and he was doing the little I think that's where I seen him learn that. Somebody needs to stop him from going places in the offseason. He's picking up bad habits. He's picking up some bad habits.
He can do it too, because there was one run as well. I think he got 18 yards. Right, he was finally got one cut right up the field, 18 yards. His longest carry this year is 18 yards or 19 yards, and even Tony Romo and the crew talked it out. But yeah, it was pretty ridiculous at the time watching. I was like, "What are you doing?" Football players don't do that. Receivers might do that where they go backwards, But a running back, one cut, catch the ball, fall forward. And how big is a yard? Like, that big? Like, just get your body. It makes no sense. He got tackled by 3 people, and then it was all over Red Rover. But then he redeemed himself and jumped someone. Najee he has to step it up. I believe even Najee called out the offense too. He called out the offense.
Yeah, but how is he gonna call out the offense when?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
When if we were to look at this team offensively, and we were to look at accountability, or we look at benching some players who aren't doing their part, or for some players who are, Jaylen Warren would be the RB1 at this point. So I don't think he can be the guy. The problem is I don't think the Steelers have a guy on offense that can be that guy. There's no leaders here. You lead by performance, and unfortunately, we just traded away the guy who threw the last touchdown pass.
Yeah, I've got a question for you guys. When's the next pass going to come from a receiver? This might be a trivia pass where in the next 2 or 3 years we might never see a receiver throw a touchdown pass.
I think Gentry's throwing a pass this year.
He's a tight end though. He's not a receiver.
But he does catch the ball, and he used to be a top 2 or top quarterback in the nation in high school.
Yeah, because he's like 7 foot tall. He can just like throw it over like a grenade, What's okay? Did you guys see Matt Canada's reaction to that? Like, he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But to his credit, man, what is he supposed to do? Like, not get excited about a play working? Man, I get it. It took a receiver trick play on a 4th down at the half-yard line.
I must admit, good play.
I mean, it took a lot for the Steelers to get a touchdown. Did you guys know that the Steelers I think they're the only team in the NFL that haven't scored a touchdown outside of the red zone?
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Every touchdown, the Steelers, they have had to go all the way down and get it in
all,
there.
All 4 touchdowns inside the red zone.
All 4.
4 or 5, right?
Yeah, there's not very many. But
I didn't know that. That's so they can't score. Wow, that's pretty alarming. But that's where we are. That's where we're 2-6, right?
Right.
That's very alarming.
I mean, there's a lot of heat going in one direction. At the guy who was celebrating there. Are you guys on the fire Matt Canada train?
I don't see who isn't, man. I don't see who isn't. And
In my mind, he's already fired. He's done in my mind.
I mean, it's I'm on the train for Matt Canada not being a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023. I don't think it's probably the best idea to do it in 2022. When you look at, you have a rookie quarterback in Kenny Pickett. What would that do to his development if you promote Mike Sullivan and then get a different coordinator in the offseason and have 3 offensive coordinators within a calendar year? Do you think that would hurt him?
Is it too late now because we've got 9 games to go? You know what I'm saying? The season's halfway through. There's no real point unless the Steelers can't probably go to the playoffs. Like I want the guy gone, but I'm not going to spend too much more energy on it. It is what it is for me. And I think they even talked about it as well. I think O'Sullivan came out and talked about this yesterday or today and said, we had a meeting, we're just going to move forward, and kind of they're trying to get better. So they might just be like, at the same time, you know what? It is what it is. And if we get a this could be their reason for tanking is playing Matt Canada. That might be the way to do it. But you're probably right.
It gives him a scapegoat too.
Exactly. It gives Mike Tomlin a scapegoat too. But they're probably not gonna, change one now or bring a guy in from somewhere. 9 games to go, finish the season, have a good season. I still want them to win. I don't want them to tank. I want them to try and win if we can. But
I hope that I think that they'll have a better second half, especially when you look at what they go up against. So what I mean by a better second half, it's not saying like they're going to go on this run. It's just saying that I think we'll see better with TJ Watt come back. I think defense will get a little bit better, but it's just sad the fact of how bad the defense was just because a single player went out. And it's not TJ Watt is so valuable. I think you can make an argument that he's the most valuable player in the league just based off of what he offers to a team, 100%. But just the fact that one single person alone gets injured and the Steelers can't generate a freaking sack, they can't generate any pressure when they have a Cam, they have an Ogunjobi, they bring in a guy like Malik Reed that traded for, which Jennifer even said in the chat too, that about him getting a sack, couldn't believe my eyes either on that. But still, like, that's just a huge concern, the fact that one single player alone, after that, you just fall complete crap and are one of the worst defenses in the league when you're supposed to be a top defense this year. You got a lot of players, or you have quite a few players you're paying a good bit to, which that's not saying like Minka's been good this year. Terrell Edmonds has had a good year. But like Miles Jack's been up and down, man. You look at like Cam hasn't made much of an impact this year. Malik Reed,
Cam's been injured, and when he's gotten healthy, he's turned it around. He's been a lot better these last couple of games. Now, I got a question or a comment for that. Yeah. The defense looked horrific, but when the Steelers go up against the Saints, these players that weren't playing are going to be playing. You got Will Jackson the third. Yeah. You have Larry Ogunjobi. You have TJ Watt. You have DeMonte Casey. That's like 4 players. I'm excited to
see what they do with him. I would love to see that implemented.
I think that those guys coming in and those guys coming in healthy can definitely keep the Steelers in games. Now, if the Steelers are picking in the top 10 in this upcoming draft, then it's not on the defense's fault. Would you guys consider a quarterback if the Steelers are in the top 10?
Absolutely not.
No. I'd probably actually go with O-line. I'm not a draft guy, but I would probably go with O-line. Somehow, some way. They haven't drafted the O-line in forever. So
no, I agree, but the Steelers got 3 picks. They got 3 picks. If the Steelers are picking in the top 10 and the Bears continue to go in the direction that they're going, you got 3 picks in the top 40. Mm-hmm. That is amazing. Yeah. So with 3 picks in the top 40, if you have one in the top 10, right now we just discussed who's coming back the rest of this season. The Steelers' record or the strength of the season, the 8 games that the Pittsburgh Steelers have played up to this point is significantly more tougher and harder than the remaining schedule that there is. Mm-hmm. And so if the Steelers are picking in the top 10, it's not because of the defense, it's because of this offense. And this offense is continuing to sputter and go out of control. Now, at a certain point, there are certain things I haven't seen from Kenny Pickett that concern me. The deep ball, leading a deep ball, a receiver down the field, deep is concerning. And so if you're able to get in the top 10 in the draft class with quarterbacks that are known that, everybody knows that this class was supposed to be one of the better classes when it comes to quarterbacks, would you go down that route?
Mm-mm.
What do you see in what do you think? How long would you give Kenny Pickett before you give up on him? Oh, he just shut out. What about you, Mark?
Well, I'm thinking, do you spend a number one draft pick again for a quarterback 2 years in a row? Don't you want to give Kenny Pickett some time to develop and build pieces around him if he's meant to be the guy? If you got him last year, because aren't you pretty much saying if you get a number one draft pick, you're going to play him in front of Kenny? You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I think you have to wait it out unless you want a true quarterback competition.
Right.
You know, but I would probably say somehow, some way, I don't know how deep the offensive line is, but I know we haven't drafted a guy from 2011. And if Mike Tomlin and the fellas are going to stick around to build something new, a new era, I would probably think to probably build the O-line back up, choose one of the positions and just, you know, build from there. Somebody mentioned left tackle, so maybe go there. But
right.
you could, yeah, I think it probably has to be offense. You got Pickens, you got some receivers. You could also probably got a receiver too. I don't know. Don't know what they're going to do. But it all depends how you're right. If the offense can't score points and we go to a losing season, say we go 5-12, it's going to be a pretty fun off season, but a horrible this season. You know, and it's all falling apart. But it's a hard one. It's a hard one to question, I reckon.
Let me let me state real quick. Sorry, my little sister, like, she tried to use my girlfriend's phone to call me and it froze everything up. Let me say about this quarterback thing, because I've seen people on Twitter and online talk about taking a quarterback if you can. Kenny Pickett has not been set up for success, man. They mishandled the quarterback situation from the start. He should have started the first game of the year. I do not care what anybody says. I will fully stand by that. But Kenny Pickett, when he came in against the Jets, okay, you put him in the second half against the Jets. He started 4 games. All 4 of these games, you're going up against Buffalo, who's arguably the best team in the league. You beat Tampa Bay, but he got injured. You play Miami, which was a winnable game and was probably his worst game to date. And then you go against undefeated Philadelphia. Kenny Pickett there's nothing wrong with criticism. Criticism is always fine, and criticism is a good thing. So having the criticisms about Kenny in terms of certain things is fine. At the same time, this guy's played 4 games. He was drafted. The Steelers obviously have liked a lot what they've seen in him, and you have to set a guy up for success. And now here's the thing with it. Okay, going into next season, you get a whole new offensive scheme, offensive system. Give Kenny a year or 2. If there's not the growth there, and you've done good things to provide for him and to help him succeed in this modern day NFL, well, then you move on. Like, if nothing's going, you can't just, because then is this what it's going to be? Oh, well, you draft a rookie quarterback. He's struggling. He's not good 1 year. Oh, we're drafting another one. Oh, well, he struggles rookie year. Oh, we're drafting another one. So now you're going to what Cleveland was doing. And so I hate the mindset of drafting quarterback this year. Like, the guy has played 4 games. He's got a terrible offensive coordinator. Not one person in this offense is thriving at all. Not one. Sure, he's had his problems. Sure, there's things in this first 4 games that you look at like, okay, like, this is, we need to see more. We need to see better. Absolutely. But not one rookie quarterback you're going to put in this situation and they're going to take off, or they're going to pop off their first 4 games. So this second half, I think we're going to see Kenny be a little bit better. The Steelers have a more workable schedule. He's not thrown into the fire his first 4 games. And a thing too, they're asking a lot for him to do. They're down from behind so many times in games, and he's got to throw and throw and throw and throw. They can't successfully run the ball. It's just, the list goes on. So it's fine to give criticisms. At the same time, people got to relax about the quarterback, man. He's played 4 games, and not one person is succeeding in this offense. So give him a year or 2. Get a new offensive scheme going. And then you can start to really evaluate what he is, what he's going to be once he gets past year 2 into year 3, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go forward from there. So I don't care what anybody says about the quarterback situation, man. I really don't. Like, I think if you think they should take quarterback, I think you're completely wrong. I don't even think that's an opinion. I think that's just stupidity in my eyes. You got to give the guy time. Stop being so used to Big Ben. Big Ben came in with a great situation, a great defense, a different style of ball where you won defensively. You could score 14 to 20 points and win a game. He had a great running back. he had offensive play calling. He wasn't asked to throw the ball 30 plus times a game. It's a completely different thing right now, and nobody's thriving in this situation right now. So it really annoys me when people want to draft CJ Stroud or Bryce Young this year. No, it's not. No, absolutely not.
So
those are my
the
thoughts. I know it's a
Steelers,
little bit of a rant out there, but that's just for the Twitter crowds I see that just want to give up
here's
on a
my
quarterback
here's
after
my
4
thing on
games.
that though. Here's my thing on that is when you look at Kenny Pickett and his play up to this point, he's done a little bit of regression. He's not getting better, and there's
But it's 4
passes that
games
are
though,
missing
dude.
down. No, I get it. It is 4 games, and I'm not saying that he's a dumpster fire. What I'm saying is he's not an inexperienced quarterback. He's got games under his belt in the collegiate level, probably more games than most quarterbacks do, and that are coming in from the collegiate level. And so my thing is, if he's that poor, right, and you see what you have in him, because right now I've yet to see him lead a receiver down the field. Like, I've seen back shoulder passes, and I've seen throws over the middle to Pat Fryermuth and to Chase Claypool, where wind and the elements.
But are they calling that? Are they letting him do that?
I don't think,
because this offense is the same offense, man. Ben wasn't throwing it down the field the last 2 years either.
Right, but Ben was also a guy that he needed to get it out of the ball, the ball out of his hand, because he had the likes of Kendrick Green in front of him, but
we haven't seen a ball down the field in 3 years, man.
That's not entirely true. Mitch Trubisky had thrown down the field more than anybody in the NFL while he was a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. While he was a starting quarterback, he just wasn't connecting on them, and so I don't believe in the narrative that the Steelers are holding him back. The Steelers are telling him not to throw the ball down the field when there's openings there. You're 2-6. To do that, to handcuff your quarterback during this time, especially during a time when you're down so often, I think it was 45% of his snaps that he's had have been from trailing. So that's almost half the time, and it's bad.
That's a big issue.
And so when you're doing that and you're still throwing, 3-4 yards here and there and whatnot, I don't think that's what they're doing to him. They're handcuffing him to that extent. Now, when it's like 3rd and 20 or whatever, and it's like you got to just get out of your own end zone and punt the ball, yeah, probably so. But you look at Mike Tomlin, who's been known to tell his players. He's told this to Duck. He's told this to Pat McAfee when he was going out there to go punt for, I think, the combine or whatnot, and he came out and said, Mike Tomlin told him, let your nuts hang. Mike Tomlin's a guy who also tells his players and everybody else that he don't live in his fears. So I don't see a man in an organization that do that also tell their quarterback not to throw the ball down the field. And when you look at the receivers' reactions when they're down the field, why would they be getting upset if they knew their quarterback was handcuffed? If they knew their quarterback was handcuffed and they weren't going to get the ball down the field, why are they going to be upset that they're open? They're upset that they're open.
I saw that all the time with Mitch when he was playing.
Right. They're doing that not because the offensive coordinator is not telling them to throw the ball. They're doing that because they're open and they have an opportunity to get the ball, and the quarterback's not seeing them, not able or not willing to get them the ball. I mean, that's just my opinion. And so, I'm not saying that Kenny's a bust or anything at this point. What I'm saying is if the Steelers are in a top 10 position, that means he didn't do much. He didn't progress much throughout the rest of this season. Again, and with a good defense, mind you, that defense is coming back. They are good right now. They're ass.
They are. They haven't done anything. They've been ass
right now. But when you get the likes of TJ Watt back, and now you have somebody like Will Jackson coming on as a cornerback. Think if it's
there's no guarantee that they're going to be good though when Watt comes back.
No, there isn't a guarantee. But I mean, if they come back and the Steelers offense is still losing 17-10 in games like that, then that's on the offense. That's on the offense.
Absolutely.
And so if that ends up being the situation, I mean, you're looking at this general manager. This Omar Khan wasn't the guy who picked Kenny Pickett. That was Kevin Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
If the Steelers go and get an offensive coordinator, they may not want Kenny Pickett. That wasn't their guy either. That was Matt Canada's guy. And so these things have to be looked at as well.
Well, you can't do the Josh Rosen thing, man. Like, you can't give a quarterback half a year to play who's been in just an awful situation and then just be like, well, we like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, what they've done in college, so we're going to take them. And meanwhile, what if Kenny Pickett goes on a better situation and thrives? Well, then you just effed yourself pretty much.
Well, I think the problem with that is the best situation for Kenny Pickett might be in New Orleans or somewhere south where the weather's where you're playing inside of a dome. My thing is, when you look at the game against Miami Dolphins, every time he tried to drive the ball in the rain, the ball was floating on him. It floated on him this past game. He threw it 7 feet above Pat Fryermuth. My question isn't the fact that he's doing wrong decisions, he's making the wrong choice, he doesn't know the playbook, he's an ass quarterback. That's not my thing. My thing is, I think he has some limitations with driving the ball down the field. And if he has some limitations driving the ball down the field, and the Pittsburgh Steelers can see that, well, defenses are going to they're going to hone in on those limitations that he has. And it's going to make this very difficult. You're going to see defenses that are playing the way they're playing the Steelers now, single high safety and everybody up front, and press and make Kenny throw the ball deep. And until he's shown that, or shows that he's either willing, able, or whatever to throw the ball deep, they're going to continue to play in this manner, and the Steelers are going to have a frustrating offense.
Well, I think that's why you have to let the season finish out, man. Too many people want to label everything after such a small sample size, and that's not even fair. That's not even fair at all to do that and to just shut the door on something like that.
I agree. There's more problems.
Talent, but go ahead, Mark.
There's more problems than just Kenny throwing the ball over someone's head.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. This run game is abysmal. They can't run anywhere. Najee can't do anything. The only good runs are coming from Warren, and let alone his undrafted guy. Offensive line, someone said in the chat there, they can pass block to a certain degree, but he has versed 2 Super Bowl contenders right now this year. The Buffalo Bills absolutely killed us, okay? They absolutely killed us. The Philadelphia Eagles killed us too. Their defensive front is amazing. They have been building that for the last, for what I know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They love the rotation of 3 or 4, 3 guys in and then another 3 rotate in. Like, they love that stuff. They got Jay Wobble there. That could have been a Pittsburgh guy for a long time. He's fantastic. He got 2 sacks, right? They got Fletcher Cox and all those kind of dudes. They got the big fellas up front. Just because Kenny's played bad in 3.5 games, 16 quarters, 12 quarters, I don't think that gives any chance where the Steelers can go out and maybe go and get a quarterback. They just probably won't do that. If they drafted him this year, they're going to try and build around him. Now, I'm not saying that Kenny can go out there and go to the playoffs and win more games, but the defense letting up 28 points to 10 for him to come back in this game, it's not built around that. Then they go into the one mind of, like, you have to go into a more passing offense. They know that he's a rookie, then you can take advantage of him because they couldn't run the ball. They just can't run the ball. I haven't seen the Steelers offense do this for years, where they just run into the line. It's almost like that these pass the O-line doesn't like doing running schemes or going forward because they're getting out-muscled every time. Right. The defensive line is out-muscling them every single time.
Well, they are.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the other thing, though. It would be sad that the Steelers didn't pass or didn't get Dan Marino because they had a young guy in Mark Malone. They passed on the Pitt prodigy or whatever. And then, if they had the opportunity to get a first-round quarterback that could really make defenses play the entire field, who has the arm strength to hit all corners of the field and the ability to do so. And instead they held on to, this could be history repeating itself in a really crappy way, in my opinion. But what were you going to say, Nathan?
No, just that Steeler fans are so succumbed to what everything's been the last 18 years. It gets to a point, you're going to have to face situations like this. And sometimes it goes on longer. Sometimes for other teams, it doesn't, because they're able to scout well. They're able to develop guys or someone falls to them. Like, and I'm talking about finding another quarterback and everything. So you have to have this patience. And I don't think the Steelers, like, yeah, they're primed to have a top 10 pick right now. I think they're projected with the third or fourth. They're primed to have a top 10 pick. But I don't think either that this is a long-term thing for them. They have good talent right now. And after I finish here, I'm gonna have to get off, guys.
Okay.
And everything, because we have to go out and do something. And like I said, man, there it is. There's the crying. So, but real quick, just to kind of say this, and I'll get off. I'll be getting back home tomorrow. So, everybody, the show on Saturday will be back on my channel. But really, just saying it is that it's different, but it's one of those things where we have to have patience now. And sure, it sucks, or sure you want results right away, but guys adapt at different times than other guys. Guys grow at different rates than other guys do. And you have to let the second half play out, kind of see how guys can take that next step. And I think, too, it's going to be good for Kenny, where he's going to be able to maybe have a little bit of a break, where he's not thrown into that 4-game fire that he was thrown into. He's going to have some favorable matchups and things like that in terms of just the team as a whole. So I think it's fair you can kind of calculate his rookie year at the end of the year, let the Steelers bring in a new system and round out your roster stronger than what you have now. And if you do that and Kenny's still not where you want him to be, then okay, then you move on. That's the only way you can evaluate a quarterback. You can't evaluate a quarterback after a 1-year rookie year or anything like that. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the fans, and it's not a good thing for any type of organization if you have a lot of a liking for a guy that you take. So give him time. I know that he hasn't really looked that good or anything like that, but who's to say that come second half that he takes a jump? Who's to say that? So
for sure.
I think it's fair to give him the rest of the year, let them in the offseason, start fresh, get a new system under there. I think Omar Khan is going to be very aggressive. I think that he's a good fit for them. For his general manager situation. And last but not least, I don't think this team's that far away, guys. I don't. I think that they're that they have some good things ahead this offseason and moving forward. They just got to play their cards right.
I agree to a certain, to that extent. I mean, and we'll let you go, Nathan, and we'll be on your show in hindsight this Saturday. Please go out there and subscribe to him.
Yep.
I'm not saying
you guys
that
in the chat, and I'm going to head off here real quick so I don't get an earful. So shout out to you guys in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. Mark and Daniel, always great talking with you guys.
See you, mate.
I'll be in touch with you guys, and we'll be back on the show Saturday. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, buddy. And so for me, I'm not saying that, at this point, let's get rid of Kenny Pickett. We don't know what he is. What I'm saying is if he continues to trend in the downward trajectory, I get he's a rookie, but this isn't, and people bring up like Peyton Manning and things of that nature. Oh, he sucked his first year and all these other guys. Yeah, that was over 20 years ago. There's flag football, there's summer ball, there's spring ball. Receivers are coming out pretty good nowadays because of all these things. And so are the quarterbacks. They're starting off hot, and I get it. Some take a little bit more time than others, but my thing is if it's the continuation of the regression, not so much if he turns it around. Even if the Steelers don't make the playoffs and they, in the second half, there was 9 games left. They're 5-4 in those 9 games, right? What would that put the Steelers at that point? Like 7-7. Yeah, 7-10. Even if they did that, I'd be like, all right, that's an upward trajectory. That's looking good. The Steelers are probably picking in the top 15, top 12, somewhere around there. I'd be 100% with that. And I'd say, you know what, let's get, we just lost Chase Claypool. Deontay Johnson's probably not going to get another extension. Let's get somebody opposite side. Maybe let's bring Kenny Pickett's Jordan Addison, his friend, back to him, kind of do the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase type of thing. I'm completely golden for that. My thing is, if it doesn't happen that way, if he continues in a downward trajectory, then, I think the Steelers and everybody needs to be open to the idea that it's not a bad idea to Josh Rosen if you have a Josh Rosen. Do you think Josh Rosen would be amazing in this team right now, or would you want to give him the time, Mark? If we had,
I was almost going to draft him for my fantasy, and then he went to another team. I'm telling you, man, it's time. Like I completely disagree with you. I think it's just time. Like we've seen him for 3-4 quarters, and it's time. Like I don't think that all of this does spell on Kenny. I believe there is pressure from, of course, the offensive coordinator and those kind of plays, and of course our receivers. Like Deontay Johnson doesn't look like he wants to be out there. Same as Claypool. That's why they probably got rid of him too. The only guy I see out there wants to be like Pickens and Muth. They're not getting the football to Muth or to Connor or to these kind of dudes, and they can't run the football. So I give it time, man. It's only been 4 games, and he's played really hard teams. And also give him a bye. This bye will get him ready. They have a chance. Now, if he comes out and stinks the bet against the Saints, stinks the bet against the Bengals, sure, it's warranted. But we've only seen 4 games. So
right. And like I said, I'm not when I say this and when I talk about this as a possibility, this was also something that I brought up before the season started. This was something that I brought up before the draft. I wasn't high on the quarterbacks in the draft. And I had said, and you guys can go back through my channel, I had said, I was like, look, this is Kevin Colbert's last year as the general manager. At that point, it was unknown who was going to be the next GM, if it was going to be somebody from the outside or somebody from the end. But I said, if the Pittsburgh Steelers, they get a quarterback in this draft that's not, much touted as being a high draft for the quarterbacks, that the general manager has an out here. He can say, that's not my guy. That's not who I want. And if that ends up being the case, I also said that the offensive coordinator is probably out the door too at that point. And then you're bringing in a new guy from somewhere else with a new general manager. Those situations don't usually end up good for a new quarterback in those situations. He usually ends up picking a high draft.
All we can do is wait and see in reality.
Right.
And Brian Brown makes a good point. Why does Tomlin act like the offense isn't stinking up the joint, but hammers the defense? There's a problem with this offense fundamentally. Like speaking, there is a real big problem. They can't score any points. They're 32 in so many things, yards per play, and points per game, 14 points per game. So yes, that's on Kenny. Yes, it's on everyone too. But I just feel like, something needs to happen and change in this offense. If that's the coordinator, if that's the playbook, if that's helping Kenny out, and possibly it could be him doing overthrows. I'm happy that Claypool got traded out because I think it gives somebody else made a good point too. Might have been someone else on the live chat. Excuse me. Said when other players come in here, that when we versed the Bucks game, it was the practice guys. That's why I like seeing like guys like Sims or someone else come in, or Jalen Warren, because they're playing for that contract, not like guys like Claypool who are expected to go out and get bank, or Deontay Johnson who already got their money, right? Or can get more bank in the future. I like seeing the guys come like that. And I think there can be a chance with that ability. The second half does look a bit better versus the Saints at home. You've got Kenny at home. You've got versus the Bengals at home. TJ Watt's going to help out this offense tremendously by getting the short field again, I think. And the team should be hopefully like take one last good hard look at themselves and, you know what, we're not a good team, and then go from there. But if Kenny does stink to join up, then you just got to evaluate the last 9 games and then see what happens in the offseason. If he's that bad, that really bad, and he's not your guy, and you see a guy like, who is it, Stroud or whoever? I don't even know who it is.
Yeah, I don't know who they are. I'm not a college guy.
Yeah, exactly. If you go, okay, that's my guy, and you know that's their guy, then sure, you shoot that you shoot that bullet and you go for him. But right now, it's Kenny's time to see what can happen. There possibly is the notion as well that maybe did they move too fast from Trubisky and didn't let him have time, because he actually does look a bit worse in certain circumstances than Trubisky. But in other plays, I like how he targets move down the field. In that seam route, he can get the ball on the dime. He can do some good back shoulder passes to Pickens, but he's making rookie mistakes. That big mistake against the Jets, that big mistake against the Dolphins was horrible, right? So he's learning on the fly.
And I'm glad you bring up that big mistake against the Dolphins, because, it's situational football that you can compare situations in, right? You can't compare rookie Ben Roethlisberger and Kenny Pickett Ben Roethlisberger, because the NFL is different. But you might be able to compare some situations there. Ben Roethlisberger was in a situation his rookie season where he had to win the game, after not having such a great game early on. It was against the Cowboys. and threw a pass to Plaxico Burress in the corner of the end zone there. Kenny Pickett put in the same situation through 2 interceptions. And so I'm not saying that, let's burn him down, whatever. It's just there are some little things there here and there about him. And like I said, I wasn't high on any of the quarterbacks coming into this draft. And I honestly wasn't that high on Kenny Pickett in this draft amongst these quarterbacks. I wanted Kyle Hamilton. I was hoping the Pittsburgh Steelers would go defense, even though they have the highest paid defense. But I figured that, if the Steelers struggled, they would potentially get a quarterback in the next season when the quarterback class was higher. But, I seen the flashes with Kenny Pickett. My concerns with him is the deep ball. That's it. Like, if he can go out there and he can throw the ball deep and he can lead a receiver and do that consistently and routinely, accurately, because the times that he's thrown it deep, it hasn't been that accurate outside of the back shoulder pass. And so that's where my concern lays in. It's the limitations. And, you look at, for instance, quarterbacks now that are successful are quarterbacks that make a defense cover the entire field. Look at the Josh Allen, the Mahomes, the Herberts. They're the guys that have the arm strength and the ability to make a defense play back. And then that gives your offensive lines a little bit of a breather. That gives your running back a little bit more of an ability to run the ball. The problem with the last couple of years with this offense, in my opinion, was the limitations of Ben Roethlisberger. He was older. He didn't have the arm strength. He didn't have the arm to get the ball down deep, and he was immobile. The one thing that I'm seeing Kenny Pickett definitely does have is the mobility aspect of it, but I'm concerned about the deep part because teams are not playing the Steelers differently, and we're getting the same result.
They're playing everything up front. They're filling the box. They're saying, can you beat us deep? And they can't do that. Even Big Ben talked about in his podcast, like, just go deep all the time because they're so far into the box by playing 7 or 8 or whatever, and you can't run on them, right? And all these short development routes, they already know that's going to happen. So there was a good point up the year before. And I know we're going really long on the tooth. It's been a really fantastic podcast. In the Green TV said Mason won the QB1 in his position. I already thought this whole training camp thing was really, really out the window. How Trubisky was guaranteed the number 1 spot, and then I thought Mason Rudolph did play pretty well as in preseason. People say, "Oh, it's only preseason," but it's like, no, he played pretty well. There could have been a chance that maybe you went on. And there's been theories out there too that you keep Big Ben for 1 more year and see what happens. You could have Mason there too and not go for Trubisky and then go and draft Kenny Pickett and see what happens and then learn under him. You could have seen another realm too. If you go down another path, Mason could have started and not have Trubisky there. The way they handled this quarterback competition was quite weird. They gave them a imaginary shot to say, all 3 are going for it, but they weren't. It was always going to Trubisky. And that failed. So, I'm not Mason's sitting back there going, "Hey guys, I can play," but you can't play him. You really can't play him now.
I think that also might have to do with a lot of the politics that came with what happened. There was some reports out there. Mike Florio had put out there that Mike Tomlin was the only guy that wanted Trubisky in, right? And then leading up to that game, insider Jim Wexell, who gets to see the Steelers leading up to the Jets game, Jim Wexell, who sees the Steelers playing, he comes out and he says, "Hey, Kenny Pickett didn't have the greatest week this week. He wasn't playing well. There was no indication anywhere that he was going to be starting." That week there was that report. I wonder if the Rooneys pushed Kenny Pickett to become a starter this early. I also think that whole clerical error that occurred where Kenny Pickett was 3rd and Rudolph was 2nd may not have been a clerical error. Maybe the whole outlash from the Steelers media or the fan base kind of push that up there as well. I mean, that's some conspiracy theories and probably something from my Drunk Turkey show.
No, it's true. Where it's meant to be Trubisky 1, Mason Rudolph 2, and Kenny Pickett should be sitting on the sideline because of what's happening now, him being 2-8 and going through the process of being a rookie. Maybe it's meant to be like that, but now they've gone too far where they can't go back. You can't start Rudolph anymore. You got to keep starting Kenny Pickett to see what can happen. And this is it's been a lot of errors. You say clerical error for the thing, but it's been a lot of errors from the get-go. And this whole offseason there was no clear-cut decision what to do. The offense stinks overall. And then TJ Watt goes out. There's all these things happening, but it could have been where Trubisky was meant to be your guy. Rudolph was meant to be backup. And then, of course, the social media, it does somehow, some way get to the players, into the organization, in the back of their mind going, maybe we should start Kenny, give him a go, give the young kid a go. But the long-term goal could have been play Trubisky, back up Rudolph, see what happens, play just as bad, play 50-50, whatever you need to do. And then you have Kenny for the next year. And then you see what happens. I don't know. But what we've done now, what's happening right now is, holy dooly, it's you got to play him. And like you said, he's not playing the best football. In some ways he is, in some ways he isn't. But yeah, it could have been best to leave the cat in the box and not know it's dead or alive.
But it's just crazy though, like to think about this situation in the aspect of throughout the entire preseason, and this was what my concern was, his ability to throw the ball deep. There wasn't anything out there, in preseason. They kind of shut him down. Remember during that one game where he was playing with the ones, they only let him play 2 drives, and that was it. And then it is what it is. I prefer this way. I think that the Steelers should have started him. They gave him the first round deal, right? They should have started him to see what they had from the get-go. The first few games the Steelers played, you're playing the Bengals, which is the Steelers won that game in a surprise. But now that when you see how bad they've played offensively, it was a surprise that they won that game. I'm not opposed to, these 4 games that he started were a gauntlet. They definitely were. And in my opinion, if he comes out and he like I said, if he just goes 5-4 in the next 9 games, then I'm thinking that the Pittsburgh Steelers, do other decisions and other moves, because he's trajecting in the right area. But if he's like,
it's going to be very telling, because we have 2 big games with the Saints and the Bengals now too. So this
both
is
at home.
Exactly right. Like Brian backs me up. The thing is, now that we've seen what it is, it's the speculation is kind of gone. Like the mystery of it all, keeping him on the bench would have been probably a better thing to go through this losing season, or the rebuilding season, if you want to term it that way, to have Kenny there, because then you can always rely on Kenny. If you've used him possibly too fast, I'm okay with it, because I think he does give us the best chance to win. But if we're in the same scenario where we are 3 and whatever we are, or 2-5, 2-6, 3-5, then you could have just played, with Trubisky. But it all comes down to offensive coordinator too. It's a bad offense. It's a stale offense, and it wasn't working. It is. So, but you know what? The hardest guy in the room right there, who's getting the biggest, probably the best paycheck, is Mason Rudolph. Never got a good chance. He never got a good chance. Everyone sells him out, and he had one of the best preseason. He knew the offense. Right, he's throwing dimes at George Pickens, and he gets left away, and he's like, "All right, you guys can do whatever you want to do. You play Kenny, you play Mitch. I'll be here sitting chilling." I guarantee you that if Mason ended up being the starter this year, that George Pickens is probably looked at as rookie of the year, because Mason would throw it to him. Yeah. He would have forced it to him. And I think with George Pickens, he can be a guy that you give the Randy Moss rule. Like 75% of the passes are going to him just because he's that talented to go up and pick it up. Mason, he didn't get a fair shot in reality. He really didn't get a fair shot. And he can throw the deep ball, and he does know the offense. And yes, certain circumstances he's a bit slow in the pocket. He doesn't run away and stuff. But if the offense was going to be exactly the same for all 3 or 4 quarterbacks, whoever, then it might have been a chance to play Mitchell first, then to go to Rudolph and say, look, we're not going to play Kenny Pickett all year. If Tomlin came out and said, you know what, we're not playing him all year, then
the firestorm that would have led to.
I know, but it would have shut us up. It would have shut us up.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, Mason Rudolph was getting booed in preseason. It wasn't fair for him, And I thought the kid had a chance if he didn't get knocked out by Earl Thomas. You know what I'm saying? But things happen. Health standpoints change a player sometimes, and you're not the same. But in my opinion, like I said, this is going to be a tough year. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers can, turn it around and at least have not a winning record, but a winning record down the line, I think that would be helpful. What do you got laughing at?
I'm just thinking this is the biggest hype train now, because you go through all the pain, real pain, right? The hype train right now is the bye, getting ready for the Saints at home. Because this would be the one I would go to if I had a bit of spare money and I could get over there. I would go to the Saints and stay for the Bengals. I would love to go back-to-back for home games out of a bye. And I would probably go from Saturday night, then to the next, Saturday, Sunday, and then to the next Monday. I would just stay there for 8 days. I'd sleep at the stadium. This is like the hype train now. Kenny's coming back. Sorry, TJ's back. The defense we want to see on paper can be there. Hype train is all-time high. We're nothing to lose. Your 2-6 is just as bad as 2-7. You might as well go out there and try and beat the Saints and get a game 23-20 if you can. And then the next week, you got the Bengals. You might as well try and beat them too to try and end some of their playoff woes. Then you're back. You're almost back in it. You're not back in it just yet, but you're almost back into it where you're 4-6. If they can have it, there's a small chance, but if they lose the first 2 games, the next game, it's pretty much done. Like it is done. It's going to be very hard for me to do hype train videos, but I'm keen because they got a chance.
I mean, they definitely do. The toughest part about the Steelers' likelihood of getting in is the fact that the Baltimore Ravens don't have a difficult schedule remaining either. Their schedule's on the lighter side. They're going to the Saints this week. And so, they play a lot of the same teams, and including the Pittsburgh Steelers who are struggling right now. And they just got Roquan Smith, and they just made their defense better. And so it's not going to be good for the Steelers offense. But, maybe they can turn something around. Maybe this bye week, something will click. It's kind of like The Matrix sometimes. Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix, the first one?
Oh, yeah, big time.
The guy, Neo, he dies, the girl kisses him, he comes back to life, and all of a sudden it clicks. He gets it. He sees the world in binary code versus what everybody else sees it. Maybe, hopefully, something can click this bye week and the Pittsburgh Steelers can turn it around.
They need something, man. They need to at least improve to 31st points overall. They need to score points. Let's be honest. They need to go down there, score 7. That's a touchdown. They need to run more than a 20-yard run. The offensively speaking, they need to just wake up. And even in the interviews, you see Mason Cole, those kind of guys. They're not motivated. They're not challenged. They're not revved up the play. They just kind of know they're going to lose before they go in. And the mentality's not there. They're never prepared. And this is the game where, yes, the Fire Tomlin crowd is correct on this one. Tomlin's got 2 weeks. They've got 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And you watch them come out and go 3 and out. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens. It happens all the time. They got 2 weeks to prepare, and then Tom will come out and they'll play the same thing. Najee Harris up the middle, a screen to the left. Jonte over the middle and drops it, and then there's 3 and out, and then we're done. It happens all the time. So much of the hype we have, and the defense can't carry them all the time. So you just got to go out there and do something different. I'm not saying you have to go out there and throw a 75-yard bomb, but I'm saying just play with some passion and use the 2 weeks to prepare. And Kenny called him out and said, no one's studying, no one's doing this. You're like, no one's studying. You got 7 days to study and you get paid millions of dollars to do this. Matt Canada's finally saying we need to get better in certain areas. So it's like,
DK from DK Sports had a great take on the no studying thing. He says and thinks or knows that Kenny Pickett knows this playbook inside and out. He's one of those guys. That's what he was known for in Pitt. He's a guy that gets into the playbook. He knows the playbook. And what he's thinking is that potentially there's guys on this team, and maybe one guy that's no longer on this team, who wasn't, in the playbook as often as they should, maybe after the fact, getting in it, just kind of doing the bare minimum to get by, so to speak. And there's a lot of mental errors on this team. When you look at the pre-snap penalties, post-snap penalties, everything across the board. But, if they're not studying, and one indication might be the fact that when he puts somebody in motion, sometimes there's 2 people that get up to move. It's frustrating. That's frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for a coach, coordinator, and a quarterback, to see those constant mental errors. But maybe this Claypool trade was an addition by subtraction to kind of go full circle with that. We'll do a couple of any final thoughts for you, Mark, since we've about the 1 out of 15 mark.
Yeah, we did a long one today, but I'm just happy that they did make a choice on Claypool to get him out. I'm not a big fan of him, and they get back the second pick. They also made a big play to get back a cornerback to help at the secondary. I think that's pretty good too. And final thoughts are this team has nothing to lose, like absolutely nothing to lose. You might as well air it out, design something that where you can go and beat the Saints. If they play the exact same way, and I mean the exact same way, like we've seen throughout the whole 7 games and last year, then every single week we get ourselves, because I do it every time. I'm over the loss now. I moved on, and I'm like, there's a chance we can win. We can chance to go to playoffs. We get hyped up, right? And I know what they should be doing is using Muth more, using Connor Hayward more, and they do the same thing. But getting rid of Claypool and also having a player, like someone said in the live chat, like players who are on the practice squad who want to play. You know, they start using Boykin more, Sims more. Sims is playing fantastic. Like he's playing some, he's playing good on returner, right? He's returning pretty well, and getting him involved back in the receiver room. There's no reason why they can't return and receive. Like it's not that Claypool was a superstar; he's just a guy that was a big body that didn't do anything. So I think if they can just get through this, they've gotten through the hardest part probably of the season. The Saints, like they beat the Raiders 24-0, right? But you're versing Andy Dalton, man. Andy Dalton's coming back.
The Red Rifle, man.
Come on, man. Like you can't let Andy Dalton win this game. If everyone's healthy, I would presume most people will be healthy. They'll go through the reps. And it's a time where it's like there's only so many times you can say, we need to get better. We must do this. It's like you pretty much should go to the locker room, everyone be quiet and walk out in the field and go show someone, you know?
Yeah.
I honestly would go and hit someone the hardest you can and wake someone up. You know what I mean? Like maybe run. I know they can't do it, but run backers on backers, like Watt versus Miles Jack, just to fire him up. I don't know. Smack someone. Wasn't JJ Watt or someone, wasn't one year one of the college guys that nailed himself in the head with a helmet and bled everywhere? Yeah, I'm just saying, like, they got to wake up, and they're not doing that. They're consistently falling asleep, and they're pretty much used to losing, aren't they, right now? As a winning culture, they're getting used to it.
It feels like they're expecting it, that's for sure. And it's hopefully they can turn it around. Hopefully they can get the attitude adjusted. I mean, the one thing that I'm still looking forward to is a 60-minute football game by the Pittsburgh Steelers. A game where the Steelers are out there. I'm not saying score on every single drive, but, you know, not score in just one quarter. Like, that is horrible. Like, score a field goal, a touchdown, something every single quarter. Not every drive, but put some points on the board. Get over 24 points. Hit 30. Gosh, wouldn't that be amazing if the Pittsburgh Steelers offense could hit 30 points in one game?
I still don't think they could hit 30, but they can. Oh, it hurts. It's hard to say. It really hurts because it stinks. We suck. Like, even trying to get to 20 or 23 is a chance to win.
Yeah. That's what you hope for. You hope to stop the other team, and you got, you know, and it's just an old school philosophy of thinking. And, you know, and I think that that's kind of been, you know, and this will be my final thoughts, is it's kind of been what's the Achilles heel for this team. You look at, you know, the way this team has been built, it's kind of going to an old school style. You know, you go get a running back in the first round. That's not concurrent with NFL current trends right now. You don't get a running back in the first round. You go get a potential quarterback late in the draft. You know, one that fell. Let's be honest here. Who was the last quarterback that fell this far back in the draft? The first quarterback pick. It was E.J. Manuel from Buffalo Bills.
Oh, right.
I think he was number 16. 16. Overall, first quarterback taken in that draft. That draft didn't do much. Neither did that quarterback. And so, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here. I'm not comparing the two. I don't even, you know, it was a long time ago. But, you know, history doesn't, you know, bode too well for quarterbacks taken after 15, not named Aaron Rodgers. And so, in the first round, that is. It's going to be it's going to be tough, man. But, you know, you go against those trends. You don't get an offensive lineman. Instead, you get a running back. You know, those type of things. Getting away from building your team, in my opinion, building a strong foundation with the offensive line and the defensive line. And I think that's why there's so many issues. You're going into this with hope that 2 4th-rounders on the left side are going to get it together. And I don't know, man. It's just there's a lot of holes, but I'm glad that the Pittsburgh Steelers could potentially start filling some of those holes with these draft picks that they acquired on this trade.
The thing is, we're gonna watch them anyway. As much as it hurts us, and I'm wearing my gear and I'm surrounded by gear, and I walk out in the street, and maybe, you know, it hurts us, but that's what we do. We got to support our team, and we got to, because, you know, I don't want to sleep through another game next week or in 2 weeks' time. It's 5 a.m. for me, so I'll be able to watch 5 a.m., which is kind of good. But you're right. There's a lot wrong with this team. There's a lot wrong. There is too many things to name. Najee dancing. There's so many things wrong with it. Killer Witherspoon tackling without his arms. It's just too many. There's too many.
Yeah, and perhaps we won't be seeing a Killer Witherspoon because he was getting scorched. Whether it was
he got benched. Brown. He got benched by Pierre, and Pierre played
Pierre
good against
himself.
The Bucks. It's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but Witherspoon was also getting torched by Jamar Chase that first game against Cincinnati as well. So the free agency pickup of Levi Wallace and re-signing Akila Witherspoon really has not worked out for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. It really hasn't, and so. It's and the Green TV says Pat Meyer needs to take some heat for all the penalties on the O-line is getting. Yeah.
We said we're gonna call it. It's like you can't call it because there's so many things going wrong.
Right, but even with that, you can't do anything about Pat Meyer because if we were to change another offensive line coordinator, that would be 4 years in a row with a different one. Adrian Clem, I don't even remember the other guy. And Pat Meyer. And so it is what it is. Hopefully, there shouldn't be any more news unless the Steelers pick up sign the waiver on that cornerback from Seattle that's on the waiver list. Did you see that?
Who's that?
Oh man, hold on. Let me go.
If they bring in another corner, that means they're really telling some players on the team that you're done, you're toast. They bring another corner in.
Sidney Jones.
Okay, yeah, he played all right. He's played all right, I think. But if they bring him in, they're probably gonna if Wallace is out, they'll probably sit Wallace and then probably play Sutton and those other two dudes and start fresh at corners because I think Minka and Terrell need the help they can get. And they're not getting that from these corners. And like I said, Killer Witherspoon, I was high on him last year because he made the plays, but he tackles without his arms. He doesn't. He honestly, those two plays are the exact same, repetition of over the shoulder. Oh, he got me, and then it happened again. So, 28 points, 4 touchdowns. That was Jalen Hurts' career. And this is something I'm going to bring up this week on my show, Steel Nation Australia. No one's calling out Austin.
Nobody's calling out Terrell Austin yet. But when you're missing you're the biggest piece of your team. But then again, you know what? The Steelers, when they were missing the biggest piece of their team and Ben Roethlisberger in 2019, they were still calling for Randy Land's head. And they were missing the biggest team.
This team has a lot of problems everywhere. But I would say if you don't get ready for this game, this might be the all-time get ready for games. This might be the all-time prep, getting players back. And if I see the exact same thing, I am going to lose my marbles. I won't have any marbles left.
Well, on that note, Mark, I appreciate you coming on. I want to appreciate everybody in the live chat. Let everybody know where they can find you, Mark.
Steel Nation Australia on YouTube. Head over to my YouTube channel. It's in the description. Please hit that sub because recently I had minus 16 subs. Said see you later. I think it was all Claypool and Claypool's family who was subbed to my channel. And the minute I talked about him not being a good player, they left. So trying to get to 900, but check out my stuff there too on Steel Nation Australia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we'll be on In Hindsight this Saturday for the next unofficial podcast, Steelers podcast. Don't forget to hit a like and subscribe on the State of the Steelers. We're giving away 2 tickets to the Steelers versus Vegas Raiders game. That game is on Christmas Eve. We'll be giving away those tickets at the post-game show of the Steelers versus Saints game next Sunday. Be a subscriber because that game, only subscribers can comment and participate. And we'll be picking a person from the live chat. So there will be a winner next week. So good luck to everybody on that contest. Let's, things are looking upward and trending upward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's go into this second half of the season with hopefully some better results. With that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. This is the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. Peace.
Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heintz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davidson. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. we go.